Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. I'm very grateful to be here and gather with you all once a month virtually with Premji in our virtual satsang model. Premji used to come out to Long Island from Manhattan once a week, and he would take the train to Come Together Yoga, and we had a beautiful community forming for quite a few years in Rockwell Center there. And then 2020 happened, and we decided to go virtual, and we are just meeting now once a month. So I'm very grateful that we are still able to meet in this way and to expand the reach of the community to places like Oregon and Florida and wherever else you're tuning in from. I have a couple of friends here from Long Beach that are joining for the first time, Chelsea and Babs. So thank you so much for coming on. I feel that, gratitude is a wonderful subject and something that we can all, as yoga practitioners and people on the path, learn to cultivate. It, I feel, is one of the highest vibrations that you can really be in. And it can be like the highest state of yoga, to be in this grateful space, because from gratitude comes all things like kindness and humility and compassion and strength even. So the whole week I've been reading beautiful quotes from Premji and in my classes. And he describes it so beautifully. So I'm very happy to be here and to listen on this beautiful subject. And I'd just like to share one practice that I've learned before I hand it over to Premji. I'm sure you've all heard of like creating a gratitude list, right? Where you wake up in the morning and you write down something that you're grateful for. And I was doing that for a while, and it became a little flat because I was just writing, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for my niece, I'm grateful for the beach. So I heard one person say one time, instead of picking a million things to be grateful for that are just kind of flat, you pick one thing and you elaborate on that. So I'll show you what I do. So see, I write, I'm grateful for my health in the middle of this little gratitude web, I call it. And then I elaborate that my health allows me to teach my yoga classes. It allows me to be able to spread positive messages. It allows me to walk my dog. It allows me to sit for meditation and to connect to the divine. My health allows me to practice yoga and take hikes in the forest and to swim in the sea. And it allows me to be there for my family and to practice karma yoga. So I go on and on like this with one subject instead of just picking like a million things and not really having any emotional attachment to it. I think this helps me to go a little bit deeper into cultivating some feelings around what I'm grateful for. So just wanted to share that very practical practice with you all. And I'll hand it over to the poet and the writer and the beautiful teacher, Prem Sadasivananda.
Thank you, Sita. That was right to the point. I mean, maybe we should start from the end. This is a Eastern way of teaching. It's called Siddhanta. First, you teach the conclusive parts of the teachings, and then you elaborate on it. And that's exactly what you did. The Greek methodology does the other way around. First, you elaborate on everything, then you come up with a conclusion. But in Eastern teachings, if you see the sutra methodology, like the way how these very condensed statements are made, the books are written, they always come up with the conclusion. So this is something new. You've touched on right away on the subject, how to practice. I guess my way would be a little bit the other way around, because I like to introduce this a very important subject for all of us. I don't think there's anyone who should be excluding this practice from the daily practice. And I must say myself that for many years I thought I was very deeply grateful for many things, and I was at the time, but I did not develop this into kind of a contemplative technique where it would really work some profound changes in the state of my health, in the state of my mind, and everything. So recently I have also embraced it. In fact, I think the word Thanksgiving, right, weekend or whatever, may mean different things to different people, especially here in America. The only thing that we become ungrateful to is the turkeys, unfortunately. But I would say that there's a lot that we could express our gratitude for, and as you know, this practice of giving gratitude has been a part of all traditions, Buddhist and Christian and every form of tradition. And even today, many people, when they sit together to eat, right, they come and they sit down and they express their gratitude, for different things. For example, since we're on the practice a little bit, when you sit to eat, some prayer should come, some gratitude for the food that is in front of you. And then you have to think how there are millions of people in this world that will not have food today on the table. So you need to kind of, as you state the positive aspect of, let's say, receiving the food, you have to for a moment think and maybe send also the waves of love and kindness to all those people who would be not in the position to have a food like that. And when we really think like this about our life, it becomes transformed into a truly divine life. Often people think the divine life means God is walking with you, holding you by your hand. That's a very lovely image, though. But it's more than that. It's really living the divinity from within, where you have to exercise your will and your mind and everything to see the things in a way that is beyond an ordinary seeing with human eyes, but to see it, to look at the world really in a ways the majority of people would not look at it, which is through the eyes of gratitude, through the eyes of kindness and compassion and everything. See, the word gratitude, as it's known in etymological dictionaries, goes back to maybe 15th century, in when it meant simply a goodwill, but it comes from Latin language and from a root gratus, and that becomes thankful, grateful, welcome, or something that is agreeing in agreement that you agreed to. So that root gratus becomes a part of the word which we know grace, which already indicates the existence of power that is beyond our knowledge but yet is there in life, and gratuity, which is what you do when you go to a restaurant, or you feel gratuity in an old-fashioned way, in the same way as we use this word gratitude today. Right, so the origin of these words again is the Indo-European language, and I would say goes back all the way to Sanskrit, which meant to praise something, to celebrate something. It's not just to be grateful and, in a simple way, but it meant to have a contact with the divine that is recognized as something, the divine that is recognized as coming from all directions to us, in all different forms, in all types of experiences. So in other words, being grateful is equivalent to feeling the presence of that divine in our lives. Now, this word divine may be old-fashioned. Today we are surrounded by computers and all this stuff, and Alexa and Siri and all these things. So maybe the word gratitude may not have much of a charm, but really there are many words, many practices, many principles that are lacking in our modern language and that people barely speak about. And it is the duty of us, as spiritual aspirants, the people who striving to change for the better, is to reintroduce this language, reintroduce these practices and concepts, maybe through some yoga classes, and then through our friends, and maybe just, create an atmosphere in your house that at least one act, one deed, such as the meal, could be consecrated and recognized as a result of millions of people being involved in bringing your food to your table, including yourself, including the eater also. And if there is something that we may have to be aware of, people talk about the climate and the changes and everything. We all talk about this. I think the suffering, the unhappiness, and the lack of connection that we are seeing in today's world, that is so pervasive in this world, I would say has been created directly or indirectly by the lack of gratitude on the part of us humans. Now, I would say, like Shakespeare would, oh, what will happen? And if we could only know the healing power of gratitude, we would immediately feel as if we have been transported into another realm, into another existence. So regardless on whether there's suffering outside, inside of our bodies and our minds, whether there's a perception of injustice and all these things, the healing doesn't just take place by attacking the negative aspects of existence. In fact, it begins by nurturing these positive qualities, such as um, gratitude. Gratitude has been recognized, by traditional paths for centuries as the most fundamental practice, without which you could not have a relationship with your teacher that is based on respect and love, right? Because you're receiving something from your teacher. Whether you're in a spiritual field or you're learning how to cook, there is a teacher. You're learning how to play music or paint or something. You have to cultivate the gratitude if you want to extract the grace of the teacher. If you want to receive more of what the teacher has. So the idea of recognizing the teacher's value and showing our gratitude is not about enlarging and enhancing the teacher's sense of the self or his or her ego. It is rather that we are able to become a better recipients of what the teacher has. And often the teacher, which is true for all areas of our learning, uh, it has a capacity to make the student even better than the teacher himself or herself. So it's really a beautiful thing. And now, apart from the traditional sciences paths, also the science itself recognizes the positive effects of gratitude. So there's a gentleman you may have heard of whose name is Alex Korb, who wrote the book The Upward Spiral, using neuroscience to reverse the course of depression, and then one small change at a time. That's the title of the book. A little longer. He could have probably skipped a few words. But he explains in this book uh, how gratitude boosts the neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin, and also the hormone oxytocin, all associated with well-being and with having a positive outlook on life. So we do have both meeting together. We have tradition and we have a science. Now the gratitude, the practice enhances our sense of well-being and also our performance in all areas of life, whether we're talking about our mind, psychological, or about our relationship. Imagine how much the relationships would be enriched if people actively practice gratitude towards one another. Now, when I say gratitude, I mean you have to express it. It's a feeling that needs to be communicated. It is not something that we just keep in our minds, you know. And when we write our emails, we could think about this. We can say, oh my God, I'm so grateful for the presence of this person in my life. Now, in the research that I saw in the Medical Medium book, he says that the practice of gratitude is how would I say, essential in building the immune system of the body, right? So the people seem to have a better immune function. There's a better antioxidant functions. For example, you can take antioxidants in a form of food, hopefully mainly, and your body will react better to the effect of it if there was a positive sense of gratitude behind it. If you were angry and tense and you're like, just following the pills, it would not have quite the same effect. And needless to say, the gratitude practice is essential in combating stress, because the stress tends to be um, the stress kind of manifests as an exaggerated response to, or existent, stresses and all that. But when we have the gratitude as a practice, as the foundation in our life, we find it's actually easier to move between the stressful situations, around the stressful people, and so on. And it is known that gratitude also in the science is proved now that it reduces some diseases, like for example, heart disease or cancer and things like that. So lots of wonderful reasons why we should practice. And I think, Swami Shivananda used to be like that. He was a good salesman. He would say, he would give you the benefits, and then once you kind of charge with benefits, then we can talk about the practice, right? So who wants to practice something if they don't know all the benefits? So in Japanese tradition, there is one practice which is called taikyo. Taikyo means that a pregnant woman would spend 9 months contemplating gratitude, expressing gratitude, to all generations of people, all friends, all people around. And it was tradition claimed that when the woman was practicing something like that, then the child that will be born will be very strong mentally, physically, and very grateful too. Since we may not talk about the genes, but we can talk about the mental and psychic influences being passed on from, one generation to other, which is what happens between the mothers and the children, right? So today, unfortunately, everybody, and this also includes the pregnant expecting mothers, is more concerned with pleasure or, taste things and calories of the food, right? So that outlook is primarily materialistic, and they have forgotten about gratitude and certainly spirituality, which kind of explains why we're living in the world where modern generations, um, or even the moms, do not produce offsprings which are spiritually inclined, which mentally and physically, you can say, well balanced. This is an important point to know, because we know that there's a relationship between how mother lives and the offsprings and everything. And I think it would be a wonderful thing to encourage anybody who wants to be a mom to actually practice gratitude like this. Taikyo. Right? This is my pronunciation. Um, so we need to now go over a few definitions of gratitude. For one, gratitude is an active welcoming, right? It is an effort to comprehend that our life is mainly lived in the present moment, and it is only in the present moment that we can actually feel and express gratitude in the best possible way. We cannot necessarily go in the past and express our gratitude. It's always connected to our present. So it's an active welcoming of whatever each present moment brings to us. This is the gratitude practice. Another wonderful definition that I love, since I tend to contemplate a lot about the interdependence of things and people and beings, is the gratitude is seeing ourselves in a profound interdependence with the entire creation. Okay, so for example, we can think just of the food. who produced it, who delivers it, who buys it, who shops it, who, all this, and you're part of it. It's not like you're outside of that interdependent system. So we are part of it. And we contribute to somebody else's also well-being, happiness, and all that. So it is the realization. Ultimately, the gratitude leads you to the realization there's only one reality. So it is the realization that there is no other. There's only oneness. There's only one creation. And then each one of us lives in all beings simultaneously. Now, this is a very high definition. I'm sorry if it kind of bogs your mind a little bit, but this is what it is. So it is also, practically speaking, gratitude is a realization that anything that may be in our hands today has come as a result of a benefit or was given to us by someone else or through someone else. Even the spiritual teachings, even the talk on gratitude is not just the talk of this person, right? It is the idea is that even whatever ideas of gratitude are in my mind have been helped, of course, by my master, by many people in my spiritual tradition, but certainly even more so is by the presence of people like yourselves and all my friends and all my students and my teachers, whoever, we're all students and teachers at the same time. And all of these people have contributed to bringing about a subject on gratitude. Can you believe it? It's like, it's not, I believe that this is how things work out. It's not just like something, you want to share something. Even for you to share something, there has to be an agreement of some kind taking place somewhere in this world, somewhere in this creation. So I believe that that's how it's connected. The gratitude is like the little connecting thread behind all events, all people, and all that. So the gratitude can be also perceived or thought of as a reception of the miracle unfolding around us in every moment. If you really live in gratitude, you will see it is a miracle for one to be alive and for two to be alive to the manifoldness of all these beneficial influences that are around us. And I say this with some humility here because there may be difficult days in your life. There may be difficult situations in your life. There may be intolerable situations at times, but these become integrated into this practice of gratitude. Now that requires a higher level of commitment, and you have to keep your practice of gratitude like you do your pranayama, your breathing exercise, or maybe if you don't do any of these, you eat. So just as you eat 4 times a day or 3 times a day, you also practice gratitude at least 3-4 times a day. It's you have to just make a first step, and then you're going to see the miracles taking place in your life. So the gratitude as a feeling it has a quality of warmth, right? It's like when you see a friend, like your heart warms up. Okay, when you see a lover, it's also possible, or whatever. I'm not sure about that, but I know when you see a friend, you just melt, right? So it is a warm and a friendly feeling that you have towards somebody you recognize to be a benefactor in your life in a different way. So as a result of it, there's a sense of appreciation for something that we may have received. There may be something that we're receiving all the time if we have a capacity to see that. And then that feeling now, a very important part of this is that feeling is accompanied by your goodwill towards the person that's given you something or enabled something, or you may call it a benefactor as such. Isn't it amazing? I think it's really wonderful. If you actually can go through definitions like this, you would actually learn what gratitude is and how to practice it. So there is a sense, of course, of thankfulness. There's also an attitude on our part, or you can say a disposition, to make a suitable return to a person who has given us something, right? It doesn't need to be in the same form. It's given in other forms. Sometimes it may be a pure smile. It could be a pure remembrance if there's nothing else. In your heart, you can remember somebody with love and kindness and all of that without needing to throw money at that person or anything. So if, of course, sometimes it's not possible to do it, either people don't live near us, or or they may even passed on, such as, for example, our parents or somebody like that, or our children, or God knows who, right? So all these beings become also recipients of our gratitude. So what we do then, we keep them in our memory, and we offer them our love, and just express our kindness. Believe it or not, all everything hears our words and our thoughts, and so this is how we should think of it. So, as a feeling, it is important to be communicated, not just meditated on, not just writing it in your book, but it is actually, you can learn to speak out loud. And I say, today I'm grateful for this. And as Sita ji introduced you into our most important concept behind gratitude, because the list is very long. But you cannot meditate on all this all the time. You can meditate on one by one if you want that. That's also possible. But a greater achievement is made if you take somebody, your little attitude victim, and you meditate on them daily, like, especially if they're not here. So you want to be able to construct the whole feeling in a proper way of attitude, and then you will just receive enormous benefits, which will you have to leave something to you also that you have to contemplate about. So gratitude allows us to also focus and concentrate primarily on our present moment. I think this is where our problem is as human beings. Worries, anxieties, and things like that either refer to something, a future event or whatever, or they refer to some kind of a past memories of some kind of a thing that always leaves some kind of a bitter or bittersweet or sweet experience that has nothing to do with today. So the gratitude in itself teaches you to embrace the present and stay in the present as much as you can. Of course, there will be always, there's no perfection here, people. So don't, all words are imperfect ultimately, because the life has its own, motion and events and everything. But your commitment is like your memory. This is my secret. You have to remember something. If you want to practice throughout the day, you have to write it on a piece of paper. Om gratitude, om gratitude, om gratitude. Put it in different pieces of paper, because your mind, in spite of your goodwill, in spite of all your best wishes to make your life get transformed, you will forget it. The secret of anything, whether you're using mantra, you're using some practice like that throughout the day, you have some awareness or mindfulness or whatever people like, is remembering it. So the hardest thing to do is to remember. We don't have a problem remembering the money. Somebody owes us money. We know money is always remembered in our country, and it's remembered around the world very well. But however, the spiritual things are just seem to be slipping our memory. So this is very important, because the practice of gratitude in itself is the source of all abundance that comes in our life. We really become, as a result of its practice, we become more motivated, right? And we become less fatigued by all the stresses that we live through in our daily life. Now, there's a lovely Vietnamese proverb which says something like, when eating fruit, remember the one who planted the tree, right? This is beautiful. We don't do that. Maybe it's the nature that planted it, but we want to remember it in this way. So whenever doing something, remember the people, the beings, all the things that come to come together to bring something to you. For example, when it comes to the food, again we can contemplate the influence of the contribution, great contribution, that the sun has made, moon has made, the earth is made, like that. So that becomes even a deeper practice. So when you practice this gratitude for a little while, you will find that your body will start to heal in ways that you did not realize before. It is a main healing factor, right? Because when we become sick, whether physically or we're emotionally not well or mentally not well, we find that until we start to cultivate gratitude, we don't quite get better. And even if you don't get better physically, we must get better emotionally and mentally. And this is definitely a plan for all of us. So the secret that I found that is actually the most important to cultivate and cherish is to be grateful for every experience. You can start with some, you know, kind of Oreo cookie types of experiences that are really attractive, good looking, and all that. So, you know, you have a presence of somebody you love in your life, you have books, you have spirituality, all these things are important. But when you start to appreciate all experiences as your teacher, then as your teachers, that's when the gratitude becomes truly, truly complete. See, the gratitude should be practiced first in small steps, right? Then larger steps. Then one's life should be an expression, a continuous expression of gratitude. That we must attain in this single lifetime, and it is possible. It is not impossible, but we need to remember the word remember because it's so easy to forget. You will not forget to eat. You will not forget how much money somebody owes you, but you will forget to be grateful. It is natural. Human beings are fallible beings. Then their memory is very poor. They only remember what they want to remember, and that's it. So this is how we need to practice, to give thanks, right, to everything and for everything. And then we will realize how interwoven our existence is into this matrix of life, right? Unbelievable. This is actually a spiritual experience. It will bring you into a meditative experience itself. So now we have to see a little more about the nature of gratitude, and then one important point, and I would say from tonight, the point I want to make is this one. Whereas there are many things that I can discuss the gratitude and happiness, gratitude and peace, gratitude. This will talk for 10 hours, no problem. But the one thing I want to drive into your little awareness here is that when you're able to cultivate gratitude for everything, right? For any experience, I'll come back to it, but when you have reached that level, you will be able to radiate gratitude all the time, right? And your world will be forever full. Nothing will be lacking. Now, when you think of your life, you wake up in the morning and you say, I'm lacking this, I don't have this, that guy's like this person is like that, I'm late for my work. This is how we begin our day, right? We do not begin our days early enough to begin with, okay? Because we need to actually start your day in a proper way to be able to practice this. So this is the secret. Even if when and if we become sick physically or have some great difficulties, we will be able to change our suffering into happiness immediately. For that also, we need to have a reasonably well-lived life. We must eat good food. We must have some practices of meditation. Don't be obsessed like millions of people out there, just totally slaves to money. You know, people work from 8 in the morning to 10 in the evening. Why? To pay the bills, and have a little extra money to go someplace. And, we know that's not going to fulfill you. You have to be very smart in this lifetime. And you're going to be so smart that you're going to say, I'm going to take this hour to myself, even if the whole world collapses. Have you ever tried that? So that's in order to help you build these spiritual qualities as well as gratitude. Otherwise, if you just work all day long, you don't have much of a spiritual practice. Let's say even 10-15 minutes of morning meditation would be sufficient. But you must introduce that. It will be a struggle in the beginning because the whole of the materialistic mind will be fighting it, and you'll say, I need to go, I have so much work to do. It is because of this thinking that we created what impossible world where we are really almost suffocating under the very kind of a concept that we created. We created a monster animal where it's life that has tremendous, you know, it exerts tremendous pressures on us to try to respond in every situation. And so, of course, when you're totally under stress, why would you feel grateful when you can hate this person, that thing, and that work and all that? So, please be careful and steal some time for yourself. Steal it and say, okay, I know there will be problems when I come out of this meditation seat, off the seat. When I enter into the world, there will be this guy didn't do this thing broke down. Surely, let it be. Then it will be easy to practice this gratitude. So try to also, as a practice of your meditation, introduce some practice of gratitude in the way that Sita explained. There may be a few more words there, but this is the most important thing. So I want to drive into your little mind the fact that you must have courage, and first of all, before you have courage, you must have intelligence that if you don't take the chance in this life to practice the important things that sustain you emotionally and spiritually, intellectually, you're going to end up being run over like most people are by a big truck of life, and that's not good news. So I am here to remind you this is a very strong message. Even for myself, I had to fight every day against, oh my God, the world is coming at me. Wait a second. So now, the second point I would like you to remember is that you can extend your practice after a month or two or three. Try to see even to be feeling grateful even for those things and events and people and so on that made you suffer. There are some very precious lessons that we had in our life. We won't see them as such. We will call them suffering, right? But some of these most precious lessons are the lessons that taught us how to become stronger, wiser, and kinder people, at least on some level, right? You cannot, of course, reach those stages before you go through this fire of, of suffering a little bit, but this is what we need to do. So, how and why this concept is important is because of this. Unless we're able to integrate all experiences into our life, meaning also negative and painful experiences as well as positive and, of course, welcoming experiences. We have to integrate them into our understanding within the stream of what we may call our life. Everything that has made us stronger or wiser or more loving in some way or the other, that needs to be understood. That you don't get wiser and don't get stronger simply by being pampered always and say, oh, you're a wonderful person, you're like this, you're like that, right? Sometimes some knocks and shocks in life come to help you develop the deep appreciation for life, and then your understanding becomes deeper, and then you become really, you are on the path of being enlightened. So even though we're still far from perfection, if we do not start to incorporate these experiences, that could be one lovely contemplation for us. If we don't introduce and embrace the times when we failed, when we got humiliated, when we got really like torn into pieces by some suffering, then our practice of gratitude at least will remain incomplete. So every experience has this capacity to awaken us to the ultimate reality, right? But we rarely see these experiences as such. And so that includes the variety of all the dramas that we go through, from the happiest moments to the most embarrassing. And nobody wants to think of embarrassing moments that they had, or if they think, they want to think it for themselves. Nobody wants to communicate them. Naturally, they're embarrassing. You don't want them to be part of you. But with that kind of a perception, a lot of your life you will have to erase. And then if you did that, what would have made you so complete and wonderful? You see? So when you take one concept or one person like this in your life that may have been really a nasty, I'm not going to use any words, just a nasty person that really pushed you to the limit. And then you think like this. You have to exclude a little bit of a reactive emotional mind. You stay there. Let me just see if I can, with discriminative mind, what this led me to. And then you will think, if this person didn't give me a hard time, I would have never mastered my anger. I would have never mastered my lust. I would never master this and never. So like this, as I wrote today, I think or yesterday on a Facebook, whenever there's a weakness within us, the situations come up to bring them up, to purify them, to become aware of. And if you don't want to be aware of your own, limitations and things like this, negativities, then the world will come up. Something will happen and will bring it up. So the world really works to help you, get to your highest state if possible. So of course this practice is very difficult, but it's in your capacity. I'm afraid you are the ones who chose this webinar tonight. You should be able to do it. You pick one person. There may be emotions coming up when you think of that, say, oh my God, he said this thing, it will really drive me crazy. That person was like this. Some stories will come up. And then you say, mentally, you have to express it. Well, today I offer you my thankfulness, of my gratitude for even that experience that you gave me. And sometimes when you go through the day like this, and if the day was really a challenging day, and all you could do is just wait for the end of the day, you must say, I'm grateful that the end of the day has come. This is a good practice. People, sometimes you have to do that. Right? So you will discover many, many treasures of life if you practice like this. For example, also you come home safe, right? At night. But think about all the accidents that could happen, during the course of a day, single day, which you have avoided one way or the other. So when you come home safely like that, safe and sound, let's say you drove in a car, do we really think to express our gratitude? I mean, do we really think that we are so deserving of every possible benefit in this world, where billions of people are like suffering in different ways? We also suffer sometimes. So when you say thank you, when you say I'm grateful, something happens with your psyche and your mind, and it's like a source of light and peace and joy that springs from within you, from your soul. That's what takes place when you actually practice. And what happens as a result of it, from this source of light pervades, or I say pours into all of your cells, and that's how the healing takes place. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying the gratitude heals everything. So you have to do a little bit like that. Little by little, you feel something in you become more alive. Something in you become brighter. Because we lack in gratitude, what happens? Our auras are dark. We're not receiving the beneficial influences. We're closed in. We become self-centered. We become worried about ourselves. I want to eat this. I need to do this. So our world becomes so small. Tiny world. Quite miserable. See, so if you practice like this, even when a difficulty comes to you or come to me, comes to everybody, but you will have strength to face this difficulty. You will not collapse. Collapse takes place when there was no gratitude throughout the life. So it's very important. And needless to say, I want to say that many people don't know, but the greatest key to finding happiness is always to practice gratitude. This is the true reason why people are happy. See, the people are unhappy because it never occurs to them to be grateful. And I know I was in this place. Still find sometimes in some place I think I deserve this, but I don't get it. I can't think of the things that I already have, right? So many people, the moment we get up, in fact, we should be grateful to the Lord, to the heavens, or whoever you want to say, for being awake, right? So many people and men and women will not wake up again, right? Or they may even wake up paralyzed, or may sick, or whatever it is. So then you say, thank you, Lord. You have given me life and health today, and I promise to do your will. Sorry, this sounds a little religious, but it's like that. It's really wonderful. So if we don't feel grateful now, so this is how we need to think about. I have these things and I have these people in my life. Let me consider every one of these as precious and important. And I'm going to do my little bit to express my gratitude towards these people. If you don't feel gratitude for what you already have, what makes us think that we would be happy with more? It's as simple as that, you know? And this is exactly why this world is spent out of control. Everybody needing more because they're not happy with what they have. So you're not happy with what you have, you need more. You're not happy with this. So this is what we need to do. You see, when you practice gratitude, your aparigraha, for those people who know Sanskrit word, non-covetousness will be increased, like your attitude towards things that, what is it you need and what is it you kind of want. You need to know the difference, and this is not as easy always. So gratitude is such that you get what you desire is exactly what you need. In fact, if I may say like this, if what you need equals what you desire, then you have attained a very good foundation for your spiritual life, which is certainly based on gratitude. Now, we are all ungrateful for many reasons. We're ungrateful towards everything, nature, unfortunately, right? So most people, what they remember throughout the day, including sometimes in my own bad days, I think what we didn't get, what we didn't have, what we didn't like, all negatives, right? So there is not much to feel thankful for. So the gratitude, sorry, the practice of gratitude shifts this focus from negative to positive. You have no choice. The very practice is like that. It's not like you can be negative if you think of the practice of gratitude, right? So our mistaken feeling, unfortunately, is that the life always owes us something, right? And if we evaluate life on the basis of what we already have, rather than what we don't have, then we will naturally have more gratitude. And the problem is when the people, in the absence of gratitude, what they do, they step out of what I call it, outside of the boundaries of the legitimate needs, and they move into that dimension of excessive desires, and they become totally miserable. Do you know that the people who have everything are the most miserable people in the world? There are people, I will tell you, if you go ever to India, Africa, and places like this, anywhere that people still don't use Facebook all the time, or maybe a little bit, they're not on computers all day long. It seems that this technology goes with pseudo material abundance that leads you to a complete absence of any of these positive qualities. That just seems to be the natural course for this excessive materialism. So you will find that the kids in Africa, kids in India, I have seen even in slums, they are so full of life. They're so full of joy. They scream with it. Our modern kids, they're so controlled by the parents. They have to go here and there. They have no even an opportunity to play. And I'm only saying this, not that the poverty necessarily, of course, is any answer to this, but I would just mention the Buddhist proverb, which is very beautiful. Always think about this. Enough is a feast. Okay? And all the excess kills all the sensitivity for life. And this is the excess in itself goes against gravity. Sorry, gratitude. And it's also gravity. See, the happiest people, as you may have heard it many times, don't have the best of everything. The happiest people, children, anybody. They just make the best of everything they have. I remember today I did a little bit of a meditation. Maybe Sita would like this. I was thinking, you know, where I come from my family, I was brought up in a relatively, I'm only saying relatively poor family. Not poverty that we see, but poverty enough that there was sometimes no food on the table and there were difficult times. And no, I'm not saying this to kind of, pride myself on anything, but I remember that there were certain things we could not do anything about. If, for example, a tap was leaking a little bit, drop here, drop there, drop there, we did not have money or anybody to come and fix it. So for months we will be watching the tap, the water dripping from a tap, unfixable. One time, my dad accidentally, after having saved the money for 6, 7 months, we bought a new carpet, and this was a severe savings. And so we decided quite an abnormal thing to do in this case, which is to paint the walls in the room after we put the carpet down instead of the other way around. And of course it happened somehow that my father accidentally stepped into a bucket with paint and spilled it over a new carpet. So what happens is that there is nothing anyone can do. So for 10 years we lived with this stain of white paint on the carpet. And it's okay. I mean, of course, he wasn't happy. We were laughing kids, We found it very funny that somebody comes from a ladder down into a bucket of paint. He didn't find it funny. But the truth is this, that you could live with these imperfections around the house. It wasn't like everything had to be fixed immediately and you get this and that. No, I do like the idea that we can fix things immediately, but also we need to be able to bear some of this a little bit if something is not quite perfect and we don't have the money at the moment, like you do anyway, I'm sure. So it is unfortunately this excessive, thinkings, excessive buying and everything, a lot of it is selfish desire. They have removed this feeling of gratitude from our life. So Swami Shivananda, I will close now here just to say a few more things. In closing, he says the gratitude is best to be learned from animals. Wow, that was a big one, right? So he would say go for the four-legged or two-winged, whatever you want to call it, beings and see how animals are so grateful and so elegant in their grace, in their simplicity and everything. So he would say, sit at their feet. Can you believe it? So my suggestions for your contemplation is to think of the idea of connectedness, right? So we can do like what Sita said, we can specify health, then in health you can specify different things like that. You can think of your education. What does education enable you to do? Certain pleasures also, like for example, having friends. Isn't it wonderful how many people are lonely today? I don't have physical friends much here. My friends are all Zoom friends these days. But I love them. And in my mind, I just try to connect with them. I don't see many people. I think with this COVID, it taught us some very important lessons, right? Then, of course, we can contemplate, for example, things such as the access to spirituality. Think if you were born in some country where they did not allow spiritual teachings to exist. And there are countries like that, right? So we have to think like this. When we came into this world, we brought nothing with us from former lives. We don't have that. As soon as we were born, little baby, we were given different things. Can you believe it? You didn't even pay for it. You were giving a little cradle to sleep in, a little home, some food. Mommy was feeding you first, of course, some milk. Then and we feel nothing. You know how we relate to our parents. This is a disaster. But anyway, this is a problem of the whole society. Think of your roads and houses and everything that where you live. So we see this interdependence, and this is what we need to contemplate. Now, I would say some of the people, you may write a list, and I have it. Maybe for some other time I will share this with you. But I would like to say that the list could include anybody and everybody that you want, and then when you get a little stronger, you can think, for example, how different people that really were very difficult for you and challenging in your life contributed to making you stronger and wiser, and perhaps more forgiving, and whatever it is that the experience is there. Then you can think of certain diseases, if there were any, or problems like this that also caused you to be more cautious about how you relate to life, how you eat, how you do this, any benefits. Then you can think of the tragedies. This is a tough one, but how the tragedies changed your life in a way that you could not expect, right? So different losses and abandonances and, heartbreaks and things like that, they actually helped you become a person that you are today. So there's some kind of alchemy in this whole process, right? So just think about this. Each one of these people, each one of these could be named, and you could also express your kindness by writing on a piece of paper and mentally offering them the thankfulness, gratitude. Of course, sometimes if there's an experience of suffering or hurt and all that, you may have to leave this in on the side. But you will definitely start to work on transforming the matter of your mind and your body by practicing this. And basically, what happens is that the gratitude practice is the practice that is the key to transformation of matter. We're talking here primarily the mind, but it's also the body. So all the elements that compose your body, that your body is composed of, will become more sensitive and more subtle and more resistant. So this is to do with prana moving through the body, the energy. The one thing that offends the great masters, the great spirits of light, is ingratitude. Because then we don't have any support, like when we get self-centered and all that. So you see, the great beings, the great masters, are not purely concerned about your faults and failings. It is not that, but they know that if they appreciate it, if they know that the gratitude is in your heart, that you will be capable of benefiting from what these beings give you. Right? So now I want to just bring in my wonderful friend Sita to say a few things, and if there is anything I will add, otherwise we can complete our talk. Sita, where is she?
Welcome.
Oh,
That was so beautiful, Premji. I couldn't write fast enough all the beautiful things that you were saying. Thank you so much. Um, yes, well, as you were speaking, I was thinking of these people in India, and I had gone to India a few years ago, and I had met a kid. His name was Moon, and I have a picture of him, and I actually put him on my altar over here because he was my gratitude teacher. And much like you said, he had nothing. He was homeless. He was our guide for the time that I was there, giving us a tour around the city. And he slept on the bench at the restaurant. And he was so happy. He was so happy. He was so full of life and was constantly making jokes and making everybody laugh and dancing and singing. And I think sometimes, like you said, when we have too much, you can really take it for granted. Um, and you can take everything that you have for granted. So maybe a practice of actually giving the things that you no longer use away to charity can help you create more space in your home and in your heart for the things that you do have, right? And another practical thing that I had learned, I had gone to a nutritionist a bunch of years ago, and she said, "What do? You absorb minerals so well." And she asked me if I prayed before I ate, and I said that I do. So it really does work. If you are feeling like you're deficient in things and not receiving what the food has to offer, I think creating that ritual of sacred mealtime and offering up some gratitude can really help you to absorb what it is that you need from the food that you're eating. Yeah. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm so grateful for this talk. Oh,
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Sita. So, can we make a little promise that we're all going to practice? Please, you can start tonight organizing your little sheets, like maybe 5 things or 10 things to feel grateful for if you like to work in groups of things, or one quality, as Sita told you, which I really find it very, very effective. And then maybe try to practice as a vow. You take it maybe from 8 to 10 in the morning or any time like that. I will be practicing gratitude. Then, when you eat, you can also do one meal where you can continuously just say, thank you, Lord, like that. You can practice, if you like to use the word Lord, or if you just thank you, life, whatever it is. And then try to express the thank. For example, you have this but you don't have a car, you have a bike, you don't have a car, so you can say, I'm thankful to God that I have a bike, and I'm thankful to God I don't have the car. So this is very useful practice. So you want to be able to give the thanks for the things you have and those you don't have, and also the things that delight you, and for those that maybe make you suffer here and there. So then you will find that something will come alive within you, right? And this is the law that we should all be familiar with, that nothing can resist gratitude. But let's say some people will say, okay, but how can one give gratitude or thanks when that person is unhappy or is poverty stricken or has a disease? And then the answer is, it's exactly then that you should express your gratitude, because even when you're undergoing some experience like this, try to find a reason to give thanks. Every disease is a teacher, every experience of loss is a teacher, everything like that. And let's say if you don't have enough money, or if you're not feeling healthy enough, then when you give thanks, rejoice, and rejoice in other people having money, and rejoice in other people being healthy, rather than being opposite, jealous. These people have this. Then before you even open your eyes, at your door there will be gifts waiting. This is the secret. Okay, so that's all I want to share today with you. And I want to thank Sita, and also Shankari and Trey, who is our wonderful contributor to. She organized everything. This is our part of a Come Together satsang. We will have another one very soon. We try to do it once a month. And I would like to encourage also people that anyone who has any questions about this or would like to share the practice, you're welcome to email Sita. Liz, she will put a little email address there, and my address also. So this way we can start to work together on this. I don't want to just give talks where we listen to left ear and then it goes through the right ear and nobody benefits from it. Okay. Hari Om Tat Sat.